Hello and welcome to this next episode of Views of Indian Christians Expressed, voice and initiative of the Indian Catholic Forum. And I am your host again, Chote Bhai. Our topic for today is Youth Are Precious. And this has been occasioned in part by the recent happenings in Bangladesh, where it was the youth who brought about this mayhem or revolution or whatever you want to call it. Now, we Indians also like peeping over the fence to see is it going to happen here. Because we also an authoritarian society like Bangladesh had become with suppression or subversion of the press, of the executive, legislature, judiciary, and even of the election commission. So questions are popping up. I would remind us of Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Now, our country, India, is very, very diverse and therefore very divided. So I do not see any kind of a pan-India revolution taking place in India. But my focus is not on Bangladesh or revolutions, but rather on youth and what are we to do or help them. How can we channelize their energies, their idealism, and perhaps even their anger? So, who are youth? They are usually described as being in the 18 to 25 age group. But I would make a qualifying statement that it also is those who are not yet employed or not yet married and therefore not found their place in either society or in their families. Now, from my experience, I find that youth is actually a very modern phenomenon, about 100 years old. Now, why do I say this? Because earlier, when boys and girls would get married at the age of 12 or 14 as soon as they attained puberty, and boys would also follow their father's profession. If my father was a carpenter, I am also a carpenter. If my father went in the army, I will also go in the army. Ancestral kind of a profession. But now youngsters are reaching puberty at 10 to 12 years of age and they're getting married at 25 to 30 years of age. There's a big gap, a huge gap in this period of life. And also jobs or professions are not easily available. So they are remaining both unmarried and unemployed and therefore fall into this category of youth. It is therefore a transitional state or period between childhood and adulthood. Now I will use three illustrations or parables to understand the state of youth and how we can address their situation. My first is this picture of an earthen pot. Now, it's pretty obvious what it is. Now, this pot has been formed by the potter, but it has not yet been baked in the oven. And therefore, it is what we call kacha, it's raw. And if we pour water into this raw receptacle, what will happen? It will disintegrate and even the water will flow out and be wasted. So all that effort would be in vain. Now I compare this earthen pot which has not yet been baked to a young person who has passed out of school, who has been formed, who has been educated, but not yet been baked, who has not yet faced the harsh realities of life, or we call the crucible of suffering, whatever you'd like to call it. So, what are these, where is this heat generated, these critical situations which bake a person, make a person mature? They could be through love, through friendship, through relationships, through financial dealings, misunderstandings, positive, negative. So this is what bakes us, which makes us strong and helps us to face the challenges of life. I recall When I passed out of school in 1965, our vice principal, an Irish brother, told us the next 2 years for you are crucial. They will make or break you. And it is this critical period which I am addressing, not necessarily limited to 2 years, that we need to address. And I will therefore take you now to my second illustration of this is a mango sapling or any tree or fruit bearing tree. We notice that its foliage is dense and heavy, so it sags or droops while the stem is still thin. So what happens, the gardener, in order to save the tree from falling and collapsing, he adds something, an external help, a rod or a stick to the tree to take it through that critical period. Once it goes through that and grows up straight, then that stick can be removed and that plant will grow and bear fruit. So in the same way, I see young people have got a lot of potential strength, but they don't know how to use it, as happened in Bangladesh. And I see this potential strength especially in two critical areas. One is that of knowledge and the other is that of sex. Now, I give you a very recent experience of mine. My 7-year-old granddaughter came to visit me. And you know, she started talking about God. And then I asked her, hey, where did you get these ideas from? And she said, I got it from the internet. Yep, that's what's happening. And this knowledge explosion is often based on half-truths and unverifiable data. But because of this, our young people have become professors of what we call the WhatsApp University. They can't be told or taught anything. They have become the sub-jantavaras. Now this is a fragile situation that needs to be handled with sensitivity. And the other one which I just mentioned is sex. Now earlier marriage was concurrent with puberty. So there was a natural fulfillment of a natural urge. However, with that gap now going to 20 years or more, young people really don't know how to handle their sexual urges or their desires which they have. Now we cannot moralize about what is right and wrong. We will be promptly told that you are old-fashioned, times have changed, and this is the era of sexual liberation. Again, there are no easy answers here, but I would say that the best example is that of good parents and elders or teachers who can convey what is good and bad or right and wrong. And with this I come to my third illustration, which those who live in old-fashioned houses or in rural areas will understand. This is a house or a hut which has ledges or overhangs. Now it sometimes happens that while eating a papaya, the seed falls in the ground and starts growing in the shade of the house. After some time, when it finds an obstruction, the overhang or the ledge, it turns away from there to look, searching for the sunlight. When it finds the sunlight, it starts growing up straight again. Now what happens in nature? Once it has got bent like this, it will always remain bent. This kink will remain, and there is no force in nature that can remove that kink. However, we humans can overcome nature because of the powers we have, be it willpower or spiritual power. So we can iron out the kinks in our nature or character once we become aware of them. Now, psychologists and counselors would use analytical tools to help a person grow out of a possible warped personality. And in the charismatic renewal, there is a process called inner healing, where we invite Jesus to heal those wounds. And the process often used is the consoling and comforting words of sacred scripture. I will begin with this quote from Matthew 12:20. He will not crush a bruised reed or quench a smothering wick. Now we know, even if a child finds an insect which has fallen with a broken wing, he will crush the insect. If we find a plant which has fallen, we tend to throw it out, dispose of it, get rid of it. Or if that wick is not burning properly, we will say, "Phoo," and blow it out. That's not the way with the Lord. He nurtures and brings such scenarios back to the fullness of life. And there are so many instances from which we understand how he brings this fullness of life. For example, at Cana we see that he changed water into wine, John 2:31. He fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread, Matthew 14:13 to 31. He calmed the sea, which is the storm at sea, Matthew 8:23 to 27. And more than 700 years before his birth, the prophet Isaiah had said, he will convert spears into pruning hooks and swords into plowshares, change the very nature of what it was. That's Isaiah 2:4. So we find, dear friends, that it is very important for us to help our young people, especially in this critical period of their life, whether in church or society, and whether we use secular or spiritual means to attain that purpose. I will conclude with a song by Cliff Richards from an old movie that I heard when I was a teenager. I can't sing, so I'm not going to sing it, but I will recite the words or verses. And this is what the song goes. But when they needed doing well, it takes youth and experience to really ring the bell. I'll repeat it. When they need doing well, it takes youth and experience to really ring the bell. And the second line is similar. When something needs to be done, it takes youth and experience to really fire the gun. So the two elements, youth and experience. And during my days of youth ministry, I changed it slightly to say, old is gold, youth is bold. Put them together, your product is sold. And therefore we attain or achieve our targets. So dear friends, with not just understanding each other, we need to work together and collaborate for a common good. In Bangladesh, as I said, that idealism and anger was not properly channelized, resulting in wanton destruction, especially of the minority Hindu community and their temples and places of worship, because they had youth but they did not have experience. They were bold but they were not gold. And so let us combine these factors to bring about a healthy and vibrant society and community. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please do like, subscribe, share and comment, especially the last, because I value your comments and feedback very much. Thank you again. God bless you.